Okay, Rosa Luan.
Um, Hi, I'm Rosa Albaldowi. My pronouns are she, her. Me and Luan are running for equality and diversity coordinators because we believe we have the experience while we've been involved in the Young Greens, and we really want to champion equality and diversity as two queer women. And I'll pass to Luan.
Thank you, Rosa. So I'm Luan. As Rosa said, we've both been very actively involved with the Young Greens and want to take an intersectional stand within the Green Party to create equality and a lot more progress within the party as well. And I'd just like to thank the organisers for this event with the several religious groups coming together and the Humanist Greens coming together as well to put on this event. So thank you very much.
Was that it? I can't remember. Acura Cat, off you go.
Kira, you're on mute.
Of course, I am this time around. Thank you for the invitation to these hustings. I think this is really important, and feel very pleased and privileged to be here. Hello, everyone. We are two members with very diverse experience of the Green Party of England and Wales.
Our commitment to this role is shaped by our lived experience and will focus on getting our liberation groups properly resourced.
I joined the Green Party aged 61, and as a sitting councillor, I became the deputy leader of the Green Group of Councillors on Manchester City Council. I have served as a comms officer for Greens of Colour, helped develop the constitution for feminist Greens, and currently hold a non-portfolio position on Muslim Greens Committee with a focus on increasing our reach into diverse Muslim communities.
I joined the party in 2027. I am the co-chair of LGBTIQA plus Greens and have previously been the LGBTIQA plus officer for Greens of Colour. I've held various roles in liberation groups in the party, also being the equality and diversity coordinator for my local and regional party, which is Bristol and Southwest Green Party. So I've regularly been one of the people connecting liberation groups with each other and the wider party.
We actually want the liberation groups to be core of the party's working, which means proper resourcing, and so that all the groups work together on our shared struggles. Thank you.
Thank you. Isia, sorry, you're next.
Oh, hi, Assalamu alaikum. Hello, my name is Asia. I'm a member of Leicester Green Party and Secretary for Muslim Greens, although what that means is anybody's guess because I sort of just make it up as I go along. I'm not going to give a list of achievements because I find that just boring. So if you know me, you'll know I work quite instinctively, and I hope I can sort of, I think I've got an incredibly strong sense of what fair looks like. So inshallah, I'll just be following my heart and my head as I go along and learn on the job. Yeah, what else can I say? What else do you want to know about me? It's exciting. The last 2 years have been the most exciting for me when I was part of the Greens because Muslim Greens came into sort of emerged, Greens for Palestine emerged, and Global Majority Greens. So to me, that's incredibly exciting. But if I were to get into the role, I just look forward to, going to all the other groups with protected characteristics and learning what it is they need.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Cade.
Is Kate still in the, Kate, are you still in the room?
It's hello.
Hi.
Sorry, your thing froze for a second, but
I'm sorry, Kate, I'm going to interrupt you because I don't know why Sarah has her hands raised, if it's something urgent.
Yes, it's an accessibility issue. I have tried to put it in chat, but you've not responded, Vivian.
Oh, I'm
Pat,
so sorry.
Yes, Pat, when you're speaking, could you come closer to the microphone, please? Because I'm struggling to hear you. Thank you very much.
Okay, Kate, would you like to start again, please?
Sure. Hi, my name's Kate Hatton. My pronouns are he, they. I'm running to be E&D coordinator. I've seen the E&D committee and how it's been run over the last two E&D coordinators, and I've not been massively impressed, if I'm being honest. It feels like um, a lot of the time we will make a complaint about what is happening, but we won't come up with the solution. We won't be a part of making that solution. And that's something that I think the party as a whole needs to do a lot more. Um, I specifically ran because of the ableism that I see in the party, but I also see a lot of racism and a lot of anti-religious sentiment a lot of the time as well. And I think it's really important that we platform the more marginalized within the party identities and backgrounds so that we can really support everybody. Um, if I keep going, I'll probably start rambling, so I'll also keep it short and sweet. Thank you.
Thank you very much, all of you. So let's just move on to the first question, which the first two questions were set by the various committees running this, and then we have questions from the wider public, as it were. So question one, how will you work with humanist and religious groups in the Green Party? I'll repeat that. How will you work with humanist and religious groups in the Green Party? And the running order for this is Ekua Kat, Asia, Cade, and then Rosa Luan. So if you can get it down to a minute, that would be great. Ekua and Kat, when you're ready.
Yep, sorry, so my mic's connected to my earphone, so I can't move closer to it. I've already done a lot of work with both Jewish and Muslim members. I have worked with Jewish members on fighting anti-Semitism and Muslim members for Palestine. We all have a shared struggle in fighting against oppressive systems and fascism. Myself as a queer person, very much I see fascism is pointing at anyone that is different. So it's all about working together and fighting our common enemy and have a shared vision of our human rights, just work collectively together. I guess that's my answer.
Sorry. Who's next? Asia.
Hi there, sorry, I was muted. A continual dialogue is really important, I think. If that aspect of the identity which is problematic comes up, brilliant, deal with it there and then. But to focus on it can be a source of division. So to me, what unites us is so much more than kind of our differences. Having said that, of course, different religious groups are going to experience prejudice at different points. So really listen carefully to what it is that the person at the heart of the problem is saying, and listen to what they want the solution to be rather than imposing it from kind of within our kind of from an outsider's perspective is one thing that I would say. And I'd say have more religious voices in to kind of have more representation. We have Muslim groups, we have Jewish groups. I'm sure I've heard people say, why can't there be a Christian group, or why can't there? That kind of sentiment. So I think the more pluralistic we can be, the kind of better we look to British society as a whole, the more representation they can find within us. But continuous dialogue.
And Rosa and Luan.
I think it'd be really important in terms of supporting inclusive dialogue within our groups, whether that's interfaith groups or within the wider party as well. Also, one of the main threads of Rosa's Renice campaign is to create more support around mental health. And I think this ties in really well in terms of faiths, because one of the things we can do is engage chaplaincy networks, and that will help support people of the faith community as well as the groups as well. So that's something we'd both like to look at. And then just championing representation throughout all faiths within the party and helping those faiths that don't already have groups, obviously organising to set up groups as well. I don't know if you wanted to add anything, Rosa.
Thank you all. At the end of each question, when everyone's answered, if any of the candidates want to respond to anything, raise your hand and I'll invite you to speak. Otherwise, we'll keep going. Is that all right? So the second question is, what role does faith or lack of it play in your life? What role does faith or lack of it play in your life?
I'm just
So
going
I
to
don't think-
interrupt you because apparently I've been told Cade didn't get a chance to answer.
I only realised halfway through Luann's answer that I was meant to have gone before Luann.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm clearly the worst chair in the room at the moment. Cade, please.
So I think from a kind of, I'll wait until the timer's up.
No.
It's
Oh,
going up. I don't know if it's going up.
I
There we
was
go.
going to let you speak without a timer
Oh,
as
that
an
would have
apology.
the timer helps. So in a practical way, making sure that we're not having meetings at inappropriate times, that we're not holding events at inappropriate times would be like the most practical way, and making sure that any catering was suitable. But in a kind of more general and generic way, it would be the same that I'd support other groups through the E&D committee position. I think it's important not to over prioritize one kind of marginalized background over another. But as I said earlier, there have been some that have been particularly marginalized within the party that I think should be supported in particular ways. And that's down to the groups.
Thank you. And my apologies again. Right. Moving on. What role does faith or lack of it play in your life? And first off, Asia.
It's a pretty private question, but of course I'm here to be public, so I'll answer it. Faith means everything to me. I guess coming from a campaigning background, from an activist background, I was a part of XR for a great chunk of 2021, 22. And then when I found XR Muslims, it was really a heartfelt sense of coming home where two big halves of my life just came together in this Venn diagram type of way. It was exciting. Because of course, I took my faith very casually for a long time. Like, yeah, I'm a Muslim. But when I actually discovered how very green Islam is, it was really deep in my faith. So that's my personal journey. Yeah, and those values I hope come out each and every single day and every time I'm doing things for the Green Party.
Cool. Thank you. Cade.
This one is probably not one that I can give a full and round answer to in a minute. I was raised Christian, Protestant, and we hopped around a lot of churches when I was growing up, but when I was at the longest was a Baptist church. And as a unashamedly queer person, my church did not accept that. And I would put my experiences as actively traumatic. I'm not going to get into them in detail, but because of that, I've always had a bit of a suspicion of organized religion. But I think faith it's so deeply important. And the community that comes with faith that I've seen, especially non-Western faith, that is so incredible. And I would like to have faith, but it's something that I struggle with because of my past experiences.
Thank you. And next Rosa Luan.
So I consider myself pagan, which obviously is not necessarily one of the groups represented here, but I find it's incredibly important for me, because I go and spend my time under the full moon with my friends, and we do like rituals, and it actually helps me continue going and find hope within the wider world. And then part of my family is very Muslim, and their strength of will and character is because they have faith. So I find it really inspiring, actually, that when people do have faith, because it allows them to like move forward and choose paths that they might not have necessarily if they didn't have faith. I'll pass to Luan.
I don't currently have any faith, but historically I grew up in my mum's Irish, so I grew up in a very Catholic environment, which was I think and then with my dad was a Methodist, and then with the integration of them, I did go around quite a few churches as a child, and I used to go to something called Junior Christians, which I met quite a lot of my long-term friends at. And I think it's really important that the community that kind of comes with faith as well. And that's something I've really benefited from, but currently I have no faith.
Thank you. And finally, Ekua and Kat.
Hello. I am a person of faith. I was raised a Christian and reverted to Islam around 20 years ago. My faith asks me to be constant in my love of humanity, to be steadfast and courageous and kind and compassionate. It is the foundation of my socialist principles that tell me there is no peace without the presence of justice. And if we focus on making the world better for the most oppressed, the most vulnerable, then we'll make the world better for everyone. Kat identifies as agnostic, and both of us have a lot of lived experience working across communities of all sorts of faith, Jewish, Muslim, Hindu, and agnostic, and other faiths. And most recently, I had the privilege of sitting on the Equality and Diversity Committee and working with the Green Humanists to become a, oh gosh, what's the word? Group. They are an official part of our system. Time's up.
Thank you. Thank you, all of you. Beautiful answers. Question 3. Is Paul Bezic here? Paul, if you're here, can you raise your hand or speak or something?
Yes, yeah, I'm here.
Hi, would you like to ask your question?
I'm quite happy. If you ask it, I don't have it in front of me.
Okay, right. Here's this question. Vivian, if you're able to post this in the chat, please do. Noam Chomsky very much preached internationalism or extinction in response to the climate and ecological emergencies and the threat of nuclear annihilation. Might internationalism be more important than intersectionality? Would you like that question again? It's in the chat, actually. You can read it in the chat.
Some of us don't have access to the chat. I'm sorry, Nick.
Okay. Noam Chomsky very much preached internationalism or extinction in response to the climate and ecological emergencies and the threat of nuclear annihilation. Might internationalism be more important than intersectionality? And the order for this one is Rosa Luan, Asia, Ekua, Kat, and then Cade. So Rosa Luan, when you're ready, please.
I think it's a really good question, but I don't necessarily think they are separate. Internationalism and intersectionality go together hand in hand. I've just worked as the international officer for the Young Greens for the past year, and had the honor of going out to different places in Europe and meeting lots of different European activists whose experiences differ from mine. But because we respect one another, in an intersectional way, it allowed our international work to thrive because we were willing to work with each other because we had respect for one another. I don't know if Lou wants to add anything else.
No, you summed it up well. Thanks.
Thank you. Asia.
Yeah, the question's posited as either or, which I disagree with, because our lens should be firmly trained on the most vulnerable. Sometimes they'll be the most vulnerable in your country, sometimes, but oftentimes living in a relatively wealthy country, those who most need our attention and our advocacy will be in a place without rights, So in that case, our lens should be trained on the most vulnerable is my kind of way to look at it, and where my kind of passion comes from. So lift up those who need it most and those whose voice has been taken away the most. Yeah.
Thank you. Ekwa and Kat.
So I agree with the previous comments. I don't think it's an either or situation. I think it's both. Having solidarity across the world is also a big part of what we need to do in terms of liberation. Campaigning for Palestine to be a recognized state, for Israel to stop bombing them, is both internationalist and there are intersectional issues in there, so it's not either or, it's a yes and kind of situation. I don't know if Akira wants to say anything more on that.
I just wanted to completely agree with yourself and Asia, and I can give an example from our own policy making. If we look at recently, we had the European conference, and we're also looking at international policy. I think one of the things as Greens is it's really important for us to highlight in our partnerships with other nations the intersectional oppression that may happen within them. We can't just say that we're talking to Germans or we're talking or engaging with people from the global south. We have to recognize that there is an intersections of oppression within those relationships and countries.
Thank you. And finally, Cade, please.
So fundamentally, they're all imaginary lines, right? They're all lines that humanity have decided to build for ourselves rather than anything else. So I agree with everyone else. It's not an either or. It is a part of it, especially when you consider the country that we're coming from that has caused so many problems internationally based on this white upper class male dominated idea of what is to be good and what is to have a good life. So yeah, they're all imaginary lines, and we need to make sure that we support, like others have said, the most marginalized in all of the society that exists.
Thank you all. That was a tough question to get answered just like that. I'm very impressed. I've figured out who's in the room and who isn't. So I know that Prashant, who asked this next question, is not here. So I will ask it. How will you counter voices that equate anti-Semitism to anti-Zionism and thusly propagate Islamophobia and anti-Arab and anti-Palestinian sentiments? I'll read that again. How will you counter voices that equate anti-Semitism to anti-Zionism and thusly propagate Islamophobia and anti-Arab and anti-Palestinian sentiments? And the order for this is first Cade, then Ekua Kat, then Asia, and then Rosa Luan. So Cade, when you're ready, please.
So I first learned about Palestine when I was 16, which is old, but I am 31 now, so it was a while ago. But I found out about it at a Green Party conference. There's a big BDS banner at my first ever conference that I came to 16, 17 years ago, which is slightly terrifying. It's hard to say right now what I would do in a specific situation, but I would always challenge it. I would never let it just sit that someone had said this is the same, because it's not. Hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of children have been killed, and it's not been since October 7th. It's been since a long time before then, and we can't let people forget that. Fundamentally.
Thank you. Next, Ekua and Kat, please.
Thank you. It is a incredibly vital question and really important, but I'm wondering whether we're seeking an answer for us as how would we counter it as the equality and diversity, or how do we counter it in our day-to-day existence, because those things happen at the same time. I think the very nature of what we said in terms of how we introduce what our priorities would be as equality and diversity coordinators, which is around strengthening and resourcing our liberation groups, has to be key to this. We have, as a party, and we're moving towards having a common understanding and policy around this, that we understand there's a fundamental difference between the attack on a system of governance and an attack on a faith, and to join them together is a huge disservice to everyone, and allows, as this question says, for other forms of oh, it's so hard to answer this question in 1 minute, Nick, and everybody. But we have to go to the people with the lived experience, with the knowledge, and I know that I'm in a party that are committed to being really clear about the difference between the two, and I would be having the support of that party to be able to counter this confidently.
Thank you. Asia.
We need to completely center our anti-racism policy so that it covers in kind of completely unmistakable terms what racism looks like, and a big kind of, the guise of that is Zionism. Zionism is basically racism, you know. So the idea that you can mix them up after Israel has weaponized it so successfully for 76 years, and that kind of weaponization has just taken a genocidal form for the last 2 years, should be enough education for anybody. But if that's not enough, you know, use amazing enlightened Jewish writers like Ilan Pappé and, you know, Norman Finkelstein, and to really educating ourselves and having not just the anti-racism policy, but anti-racism kind of workshops, so that we every single member of the Green Party should know what racism looks like and what anti-racism looks like, you know, and Zionism is just a kind of very dangerous iteration of that.
Thank you. And finally, Rosa Luan.
I'd just like to echo what everyone said here about making sure we call out the distinction of hate and the political ideology as well. And we are a party that should reject all hate and stand firm in rejecting that as well. And as equality and diversity coordinators, our role is to help those from marginalised backgrounds. So it'd be helping the liberation groups, creating education platforms as well. And I'll just hand over to Rosa to explain more on that, because she did some really vital work on anti-racism with the Federation of Young European Greens.
15 seconds. Yeah, I did a workshop in Croatia on anti-racism and on how it links between misogyny and speciesism, but like that is really important on how how we phrase things, like when we're talking about Palestinians, because when we're talking about Zionism, they use like horrible words like hordes, and this like makes people think of like a large horrible group of people, but actually it's not. These are civilians, and they need to be cared for, and Zionism is just colonialism wrapped up. So that's what.
Thank you.
I have to say, the anti-Semitism training I had within the party was fabulous, and everyone should have it, you know. So it's not that we need to just look after our Jewish members really well as all the other faith groups, and counter Zionism.
Thanks. I've lost track of it. Has everybody answered that question? No, I think they have. In which case, Ben Samuel, you asked a question. Would you like to speak it, or shall I do it?
How can I support you if you win this?
Thank you, Sam. Ben. And the running order here is Ekua Kat, Rosa Luan, Cade, and then Asia. So when you're ready, please, Ekua and Kat.
I can take this question. I think the important thing for us as for us as EUD coordinators would be to kind of keep in contact with the membership, both through the liberation groups and more widely, just so we know, we have to also know the problems people facing the party and people's thoughts and stuff. Like, we don't want to come in and be like top down, everyone is doing this. We want everyone's thoughts to kind of feed in to general equality and diversity strategy, and then roll that out across the party. We don't want to just be the focal point in that, and all the ideas coming from us, I think, is the main thing. Kira, I don't know if you have anything to
Just
add
wanted
to
to add one thing in terms of so I'm guessing the question is coming from you as an ordinary member, whatever that means. But one of the things that I'm really aware of is that some of our local parties have EDI officers, some don't, but all of them have to operate in isolation without the sort of support that they might need. And I would really encourage members to, one, ensure that their local committees have EDI members, and then to ask them to work with us. We will be if we're sorry, how to actually phrase this. If we take on this role, we would be really looking at ways that the E&D committee can support those individual EDI officers. So it's about a joint working together, members working with their local parties to take it seriously, electing EDI officers, and then us making sure they're supported.
Thank you. I can't remember which question we're on. Rosa Luan.
So in terms of that, it would be if you're an ordinary member, Rosa and I would always be here to listen to anything that comes through, whether that comes through from an individual members or groups. Obviously, there's the Equality and Diversity Committee that gets elected and re-elected every few years as well. So getting involved in the committee. Also, in terms of the liberation groups, getting involved with them and feeding back. And then, as Akua said, the local parties is really important. I'm from a local party that has only just appointed an equality and diversity officer, and it's already starting to make a real impact in the work that's been done as well to support people within our local party as well. I don't know if you want to add anything, Rosa.
Okay, thank you. Cade, you're next, please.
The biggest thing, volunteer. In any role, whatever you feel comfortable with. The biggest thing that you can do to help, if you are not already in a role within the party, is volunteer to do something like, as Ikua brought up, the EDI officers at in your local parties, but also a lot of special interest groups. We will only have one candidate, if that, for a particular role. And a lot of the really important roles go unfulfilled. There are also a lot of the special interest groups I know have like social media teams. I know the LGBTIQ plus Greens wanted to set up a policy development team that was kind of looking at ways that we can improve different parts of our policy. Like, getting involved is the single most effective way you could help, because then the individuals who are doing that work will have less work to do, which means they'll be able to bring more to the E&D committee, which I just want to pull Luann up on that one thing. It's every year at conference. The E&D committee gets elected every single year. So also come to conference and volunteer for my access team.
Thank you. And finally, Asia.
Yeah, brilliant ideas. I think, each local party having somebody who's thinking about how do we get our disabled members looked at, how do we get the, sort of religious groups, how do we get trans people, how do we get LGBTQIA members kind of represented and sort of feel really included would be exactly what's needed. Ben, you are a gardener, you're working active travel, you're a member of Jewish Greens, and you've been so passionate about Palestine. So how can you help us for can you just clone yourself, just like amazing Ben? Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I just want to thank everyone so far for keeping us to time. We're doing brilliantly. 3 more questions, 18 minutes. Christopher Gargan, who is not in the meeting, asks, how will you defend the right to protest in the light of the Palestine Action Prescription? I'll repeat that. How will you defend the right to protest in the light of the Palestine Action Prescription? And my scroll bar is frozen. Here we go. Asia, then Ekua Kat, then Rosa Luan, then Cade. Asia, when you're ready, please.
Oh, I'm not sure is the answer. But I know I will, but I don't know how. Like our party, thank goodness, has every single one of our MPs and the deputy, Zach, and people have spoken out against the sort of idiocy. I can't even say draconian. It's just they're making such complete asses of themselves, with 500 people having had the courage to defy it, and now another 1,000 signed up for September. So what do we need to do but just kind of watch the show? It's going to fall on its face badly. Yeah, and our policies say the right to protest is intrinsic, and it's not even a part of the Green Party. It's part of the British kind of way to do things. Protesting is part of, yeah, it's so intrinsic to life as we know it, quite rightly so. So yeah, uphold Green Party policy and speak out against it every turn. Go to every protest and keep talking about it.
Thank you. Ekua and Kat.
Yeah, so I'll take this. I think we've seen a really large movement go towards the government criminalizing protests in this country. I was out on the streets during the Kill the Bill protests in Bristol, where more policing act were being given to the police, which is now in effect to criminalize protest. It's absolutely attacks freedom of speech, our right to participate in democracy, because protests are a core part of democracy. We need our MPs to be talking about this. We need our leadership to be talking about this. We need good policy to counteract this overreach of government and police power into protest. I think that's what we need to do. Didn't know if Kira wanted to say anything.
No, you've got it. I think where we stand already as the Green Party is really clear, and we'll just uphold those values. A big thing will be to keep encouraging membership to follow our policy and practice. And as you said, I think we've already shown that our leadership is doing well. And we'll just encourage them to do better and the membership to support them and vice versa.
Thank you. Rosa Luan.
So I think the first most important thing is that we have to show up to these things. It's actually vital that the more people who show up to these like sit-ins for Palestine action, I think the better, because it helps us build real connections with real activists. And then I think we should actually be doing legal safety support. We should potentially be giving education initiatives on how to be safe at these protests, and like legal aid, potentially well-being support for anyone who is arrested. And yeah, policy obviously is a big thing, but we really need to be helping, because this is a real attack on our rights. And it's not okay to allow it to just pass by with no pushback.
Thank you. And finally, Kate, please.
So even before a lot of the policing bill and things that came through, disabled people were often particularly in danger when going on protests, because our mobility aids would be taken and potentially completely destroyed by police on those. It has always been a way, the laws around protests have always been a way of quieting specifically marginalized voices. The police are able to get away with destroying people's mobility aids because most of the time we don't have enough money to sue the police for destroying our mobility aids. People of color are more likely to suffer violence at protests and in general at the hands of the police. So I think it's more than just the prescription of Palestine Action is obviously a ridiculous and incredibly ignorant thing. Well, not even ignorant, it's a targeted thing that the government have chosen to do. It's not ignorant. They have decided to make this decision. I'm sorry, I'm going to overrun a little bit on this one, but when we look at the news around the prescription of Palestine Action, remember who we're seeing in the news. Remember that we are seeing old white people getting arrested, and we are not seeing the hundreds of people of color who have been arrested on these kinds of protests. So something I would do is try and make sure that we are raising the profile of, especially Green members, but anyone that goes through any kind of action like that at a protest that gets arrested, and making sure that we are platforming people who have been targeted because they are marginalized and will get forgotten by mainstream media.
Thank you. I've completely lost track of where we are. That's everyone who's answered that one, haven't they? Yeah, anyone left? So the next question was asked by Farry Bradley, who I think is not in the room. And the question is, when is tolerating the intolerant a fault? And this is, they say, from an Iranian member. When is tolerating the intolerant a fault? And the running order for this one, please, is Rosa Luan, Cade, Ekua Kat, and then Asia. So, Rosa and Luan, when you're ready, please.
Hi, sorry, I'm just trying to get my head around that one. For me, when it enables harm to anyone, so tolerating hateful or oppressive views, so whether that's racism, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, homophobia, we can't justify harm to anyone. And sometimes I go by the phrase of, why is it so radical to be kind? So I think just when tolerating the intolerant becomes a fault when it enables harm, and also when it undermines justice. True inclusion doesn't mean accepting all views. It does mean drawing clear lines, especially when those are hateful towards people as well. I don't know if you want to add anything, Rosa.
I think you covered it pretty well there.
Thanks. Cade?
I would actually go slightly a step further. I think a lot of the time we act as if it only matters if a person is harmed by someone's actions. It's only if they were in the room when it happened. But the fact that it was allowed to happen in the room means that room was not safe for people that would have been harmed by that. So I think tolerating the intolerant is the moment they start espousing intolerant beliefs, whether or not there's a person in the room that would be harmed by that. I kind of come at this from a disability perspective. Like my high school didn't have a lift in it until the year I left. So we didn't have any disabled students until the year I left. And if you are going to make a space that is inaccessible or unsafe for someone, they're not going to turn up to it. So it would be the moment that someone started making it clear what they thought, and if those thoughts were bigoted, that's the moment that they would have to leave.
Thank you. Ekua and Kat, please.
So I have some experience on this. I used to be a hate researcher, so I've infiltrated fascist groups, seen what they say, what they talk about, and what they're using this language of toleration to basically make it so their beliefs, they can espouse their beliefs, which will make places more unsafe for people less tolerant in the future. So we need to really draw a line under transphobia, Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, any kind of discrimination, anyone saying anything along those lines, and say that's not okay. We can't tolerate people, and we can't tolerate hateful views and be inclusive of people at the same time. It's just an impossibility.
Thank you. And finally, Asia, please. Asia?
Because my daughter was coming in and out, so I muted it, and now, yeah. No, I love people's answers. I think what I'd like to see is given our resources as much as possible, kind of training and education on what examples of what that looks like, because all of us come from a particular perspective where we're steeped in an aspect of identity or an aspect of life experience, which makes us the expert on that particular one. But on a different one, we still got a lot to learn, So wouldn't it be great if more and more training could be given to kind of reps like ourselves, or and members on what transphobia, what the lived experience is, Islamophobia, what the lived experience is, anti-Palestinian racism, what that looks like, what it's like for a disabled person who, what it's like if you're neurodiverse. So create the condition, create like what Cade said. Cade implied it, that create safety, so as well as not tolerating the intolerant, kind of actively create a safer and safer space through training, through education.
Thank you. That was everybody, wasn't it? We have one more question. If we do this and then do summing up, we're going to be 5 minutes over, but I'm going to take the risk that people won't hate me for it. Farah Syed, if you're in the room, which you were a few minutes ago, would you like to ask your question, or shall I ask it for you?
I am. I can't remember my question. If you could post it.
Shall I ask it for
the
you?
far right have weaponized. I can
Okay.
ask it. It's on my screen.
Sure.
Let me quickly get that up. The far right have weaponized identity to sow division in communities. What should the Green Party be doing internally to ensure this doesn't happen to us and all people's views and opinions are welcome?
Thank you. And that is in the chat as well. And the running order here is Ekua, Kat, Asia, Cade, and then Rosa Luan. So Ekua and/or Kat, when you're ready, please.
I'm really sorry, I don't have the chat. Could I just hear the question one more time, either from Fahar or from...
I'll read it. The far right have
Can I
weaponized identity.
interrupt you, please? I'm sorry, Kat. I've been putting the questions in text to you.
To me,
Was it not to you? Or did you not text me?
Sorry, I didn't see that one. I had seen the other and shared them. Sorry, yes, you did.
I'll read it anyway.
Thank you.
The far right have weaponized identity to sow division in communities. What should the Green Party be doing internally to ensure this doesn't happen to us and all people's views and opinions are welcome?
That's a really interesting question, following on from the question before about how do you tolerate the intolerable? So, what do we mean by all people's views and opinions are welcome? Surely, what we need to have is an increased understanding of what views and opinions are welcome that are consistent with the values and the code of conduct of the Green Party. Because I think that's one of the things that would enable us to have a more nuanced understanding of each other if we have that as a starting point. How do we fulfill our own code of conduct? What does that mean from one person to the next to feel? How do we create those safe spaces? Now, I'm going to go back again to where, because Kat and I have had such endless conversations about this, the best people to guide us in that are those liberation groups, those people who have lived experience or are choosing lifestyles that counteract a dominant capitalist narrative about how we should live, but that are consistent with the Green Party. So we need to invest in those groups to help us. The Jewish Greens have led in the anti-Semitism training, and as Asia said, she said it was very good. We need to continue with that, and we need to show that we do that so that more people can join us and have positions rise through the party internally and externally to be able to share that and make sure that we're doing that well so that all members can flourish and understand what it is to be a good Green Party member.
Thank you. Asia, please.
Well, if Reform's idea is to sow division, surely our idea is to create unity, you know what I mean, across different categories as much as possible. Our leaders need to exemplify this by really, I'd love to see the MPs wearing keffiyehs in Parliament. Wouldn't that be groundbreaking? But that's a little kind of pipe dream of mine. Really, they need to steep themselves in the communities they represent and the communities they don't represent. If they're rural, go to an urban area. If you're in if our councillors and our MPs are in an urban setting, go to a rural area, see what it is that people are experiencing, talk to them and come away with a renewed understanding. Look at different faith groups, look at different festivals, look at the struggles of LGBTQI people who are targeted for being different, and sort of have that, center that in the way you're thinking. So unity, we need to kind of showcase that with everything we're doing across different categories.
Thank you. Rosa and Luann, please. No, Cade, sorry.
I was about to go, did I forget that it was me next?
No, I was reading off the wrong line. Sorry.
So essentially, first step is accept that it's already happened, because it has. We live in a society, we all come from, or most of us, I'm sure other people come from communities outside of the UK, but as far as I'm aware, all of the candidates in this specific election, have at least spent a significant portion of their lives in the UK. And it is a horribly, horribly bigoted society in a lot of ways, because that's how it was built, to make sure that the people that are at the top got to stay at the top. I think that we need to acknowledge the fact that it has happened to the party. I want to make this clear. I'm not saying this about any specific individual, but there is a phrase of scratch a transphobe, find a racist. And that has been playing out very true on the internet. And I think in some ways true within the party as well. We need to make sure that that we are actually challenging it when poor behavior and bigoted belief is shown. I also think that the question itself has a little bit of a misnomer in it. Not all people's views and opinions are welcome. I do not welcome a racist's opinion. I do not welcome a misogynist's opinion. I do not welcome an Islamophobic person's opinion. These aren't suitable opinions for being within the party, and they should go and join Reform. We need to make sure that we are actually teaching people what our party stands for fully. And the entire time that I've been a member, it has been about supporting the people that need it most, making sure that we are keeping the environment in mind when we are supporting those people, and dealing with this infrastructure of control that has been made by the most powerful in this country, who all happen to be white and mostly male and mostly straight, and we need to deal with that.
Thank you. And finally, Rosa Luan.
Hi, I might reiterate some of what the other candidates have already said, but one of the main things is to identify is that there's several political parties in the UK because they all have something unique about them, and I think that's what we need to identify within the Green Party in terms of expressing our values, and those that share our values are the ones that are welcome here, but the ones that want to spout any division or hate aren't necessarily welcomed in the same way, because we're an organisation that promote equality and promote just kindness. It's not that radical. So in terms of that, in terms of internally as well, promoting unity through working together, rejecting any form of hate, organising across communities, investing in the education in the party and the training, embedding these in any codes of conduct or disciplinary procedures, and most of all, making sure that our party is a safe space for those that are involved with the party as well.
Thank you. Before we move on to the summing up, I have some thanks that I'm going to reel off the top of my head. Thank you, everybody, for being here this evening, for listening to these amazing candidates. Thank you to everyone who asked the questions. The questions were brilliant. Thank you to the candidates for being so positive about some very difficult topics, and for being so personal when it got that way, for keeping to time. I have to say, yesterday when we had the same anti-Semitism, anti-Zionism question, I don't think anybody managed to get it into under a minute. So well done, and you can all go to the after party this evening and congratulate each other. Summing up, please, 1 minute each. The order is Cade, Asia, Rosa Luan, and then Ekua Cat. Okay, off we go.
So yeah, to sum up, I am really focused on making sure that every meeting is as accessible as possible for everyone and every party event that we hold. I think a lot of the times we don't have enough people from marginalized backgrounds, or we don't have enough people from religious backgrounds in general who are able to say, wait, you're putting this event at an inappropriate time. Wait, you're doing this wrong. Wait, this isn't suitable. We need to do better at listening, and I hope that I'm able to do that as well. Yeah, I won't keep rambling, and I'll keep it short and sweet again. But please vote Kate Hatton #1.
Thank you. Asia.
Oh Lordy, it's uncomfortable.
You don't have to say anything if you don't want to.
Yeah, that's a good option. Do you know what I did want to say actually? I think my understanding from other people in the party is that there's been like a lot of sad like factionalism, and I find it so heartbreaking when we're such a brilliant party. And something I say to my 15-year-old and my 13-year-old when they talking to me about experiences in their secondary school is I say, don't clap labels on people. You can tell that person what their behavior looks like. That could be racist or that could be, homophobic, but do not call people that name, because that sticks and it's very hard for them to emerge from that label, and it creates enmity. So it would be so great for me to see a far more nuanced middle ground of people listening and talking to each other within the Green Party. Really hoping that I can be part of that in my chaotic way. I get things done in the end, quite a last minute. And I will say something for my running mate who's not here. She has dedicated her life in service to people. Lovely, lovely woman. Yeah. So if you want to, you can. I would never say I'm the best. I've never said that anytime.
Thank you. Rosa and Luann, please.
Rosa just apologises that she's had to drop out, but we both express a thank you to the organisers for the hustings. It's been really good to hear from everyone as well. What Rosa and I stand for is a Green Party where inclusion isn't optional, it's fundamental. We have a commitment to intersectionality, accessibility, and leadership development for underrepresented voices. I've been a big part in the Young Greens 30 Under 30 organisation for the last 3 years, and I want to bring that to other underrepresented groups as well. We're committed to making sure the Green Party doesn't just speak progressive values, but actively shows up and is progressive. And we would be honoured to serve as your Equality and Diversity Coordinator. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Ekwa and Kat, please, to round the evening off.
Thank you. Do you know the first thing that I want to really acknowledge tonight, and I've felt it throughout this campaign for this role, is the real strength in the candidates across the board. I think we are really lucky as a party that people have really stood up and take this role very seriously. And I think I think the quality of the questions that came in and the answers that were given really exemplify exactly how much we need to have leadership around this area. Our membership are crying out for it. And so I will move on to the self-promotion bit, Asia, and everybody, that I truly believe that Kat and I are really well placed among this very strong field to lead as your Equalities and Diversity Joint Coordinator. I think we have a very clear idea of who will take us on this journey, and we would welcome an ongoing relationship with the strong candidate field that we have here, should we get elected. Quickly over to Kat.
I just want to say really grateful that Jewish Greens, Muslim Greens and Humanist Greens have put together this event. This is exactly the kind of joint working me and Akira want to see in the party if we're elected, just to get everyone working together and be a core part of the Green Party.
Cool. Well, I won't repeat all my thanks, but thanks, and see people around. I'll be at conference, and I hope many of you are, and will wave and say hi. Okay, I think we're done.